Hello people. If you want to see a very powerful and flashy Demonform build, I have a really nice one for you today. I really hope that you enjoy. The reason I chose this build on League Start is that once I saw the Horror's Flight and Grave Bracers, I asked myself, what is going to stop me from just using Lightning Warp to cull everything on the map extremely fast if I have infinite mana and high stacks? Turns out, not a whole lot. Full disclaimer, this build does take a small amount of time to ramp up when starting encounters. Your damage will be quite low compared to the top end possible damage at the start of a map or immediately before a boss fight if you stop before fighting it. However, after that, you're basically off to the races. The core skill rotation is Spark to chip things down, Lightning Warp to cull when possible, Cast on Crit with Arc slotted to deal AoE damage around you, to keep the chain going. Arc is important both to deal burst damage to rares and stuff like that, but also to keep chipping enemies without having to stop and cast Spark. For very tanky rares and bosses, I will either drop Orb of Storms with Unleash to get some infusions and extra chain for Spark, or I will fire off a barrage of Ball Lightning and warp into them, but honestly I don't do that often. The build utilizes Elemental Equilibrium Keystone. This means that the lightning infusions generated from a single lightning warp are converted to cold, which empowers Spark for whenever I do have to stop. I also use 7 Elements Aura to still generate the infusions for Arc to give it some extra damage and extra chain. The biggest damage vector for the build by far is crit and critical damage bonus. I think I have about like 950 crit bonus at this time. The next biggest source of DPS is the Ascendancy. From Uncapped Demonform, the highest bonus I can maintain without swapping, even if there are targets around me, is about 120 stacks of Demonflame. At this maximum, that means I am dealing about 2,000 damage to myself per second and getting a maximum of 360% more damage. To be honest, I'm not usually at that number. I'm typically hovering between 25 and 70 Demonflame, unless there are a wealth of targets around me to keep up. Basically, if you're high Demonflame with no target, you need to spam Lightning Warp with no targets to keep it up, and most of the time it's better just to let it fall off and reset. It will eventually get to a point, even if you're spamming, that you won't be able to maintain it, and it's better to start a fight at a level that you can control without being put to 1 HP when you don't expect it. The other kind of negative that can happen if you use too high Demonflame in some situations is on my cast on crit, I have Atuli's Bloodletting on the skill, which means that if my life gets too low, my cast on crit won't proc. So you do kind of need to have it at like a medium level for this build to feel smooth. You'll see in this boss showcase that I am pretty high. I think I'm in the 80s and 90s of Demonflame here. This is a little bit of an annoying boss for a showcase because currently I don't have a Rockiatas yet. I will probably put one on Spark later, but at this time I do need to use multiple debuffs in order to get bosses down. But you see, I fried him pretty fucking fast there. I mean, that's about as fast as you can do it while he's targetable. I am doing Rite of the Nameless farming here, and so he's going to reappear, I think. But this ritual and stuff like that could not be smoother for this build because Spark and Lightning Warp are some of the best skills for this. Spark bounces off walls. Anything with small arenas is just excellent for Spark. I have had a little bit of issues with some of the new Pinnacle bosses because their arenas don't have walls, but you know, I can still kill them just fine. It just takes a little bit longer. I have also tried farming a lot of Simulacrum and doing the type of new Simulacrum that has a lot of bosses. To be honest, I didn't find that rewarding. I feel like just running rituals and specifically Rite of the Nameless over and over is probably better than running Simulacrum, although I do want to give a few tries at the Simulacrum boss to see if I can get some of the jackpot drops. But, you know, it kind of has the same things that are good about it as Ritual, which is a lot of walls and just the ability to fry targets by piercing overlaps. So that's about going to do it for the mapping showcase. Just going to finish out this ritual, and then I'll just do a quick rundown of the gear and the passive tree. To be honest, this isn't really like a build guide, but more of a showcase, but I'll still go over some of the core mechanics. I've made Demonform videos previously, and I'm not going to really go fully into the weeds on everything, but if you're curious, I will post my POV in the bottom of this video. Alright, so just going to do a very quick run through of the tree and gear. I've already tried to record this a few times and my throat is starting to give out, so I'm not going to talk too much. I will put a POB in this at the end. So we are Demonform. That means when Demonform is up, per stack of Demonflame, we take 18.5 life loss and deal 3% more damage per Demonflame. Typically, we're between 25 and 80. Sometimes, if you time it with the boss right, you might be up to 110 and then have a massive amount of more damage, but also take a lot of self-damage. Then, next most important node. This gives you infinite mana, Pyromantic Pact. If you play Demonform, you know what this is. Essentially, the way this works is you take damage equal to the amount of mana that you would have had otherwise, so you need to keep your mana low. The build works based on putting as much recoup stacks on you as possible, so the lower your mana, the more times you are going to trigger Pyromantic Pact, meaning that you will get more recoup on aggregate once you've had enough triggers go off consecutively. Next most important damage node is this. When I deal a critical hit, I take 15% of life and energy shield as damage per second. This, however, will not damage you if you have immunity to ignite. I have immunity to ignite because I anointed crystallized immunities on my amulet, and crystallized immunities says that if you have more red support gems than any other kind of support gem, then you are immune to ignite, including that damage. The next most important mechanics are, of course, the start of the show here, Horror's Flight and Grade Bracers. Every time that you cull a target, you get 1 Fear Incarnate, and you get up to 20 stacks of Fear Incarnate. Once you're at 20 stacks of Fear Incarnate, you will be able to cull almost any enemy that isn't rare almost immediately. And especially if you chip them down with like a little bit of arc damage or spark damage, then it's very easy and you can even get rares with it. You must use this if you are using Pyromantic Pact and Demonform. You just need the recoup from this because it allows the recoup that you would have had as life to also, in addition, be granted as energy shield. So I've got like almost 100% recoup as life. I also have energy shield recoup through other things like this desecrated mod on my helmet. So I have energy shield recoup on the side and from the tree. So in total, I've probably like about 160% damage taken recouped as life. So this is a must-have. This you might not need if you had something really good like a Mage Blood. Headhunter does not work on Demonform. Don't try it. I can't really explain why, but just don't try it. It doesn't work. Mage Blood might be okay, but I thought Low Life was the best way to build this. It was also much easier to get like at the start of the league. I do have Special Corrupt here for Fire max res. When you are taking damage from your Ascendancy, it is fire damage, and so mitigation to fire damage does help you deal with that. So having extra max fire res is good. The most important thing on the tree, other than just crit and recoup, every single node that is not a pass-through node is crit and recoup, other than some of the weapon swap points, is you must have this Timeless Jewel, specifically the Allroth Timeless Jewel. This allows you to, when you take this keystone, not get an inherent bonus from intelligence. Not getting intelligence means that you won't get mana, which means that your mana will be really low. You want your mana to be as low as possible so that you get to trigger your infinite mana more often and thus get more recoup stacks. When you first start stacking your recoup, you're not going to be getting that much life. You'll see I'm also almost taking myself down to minimum energy shield. But once you keep adding more stacks, each recoup that you trigger lasts 8 seconds. The more recoups you trigger faster, the better your recoup is, and you take all the combined recovery from all the recoup stacks put together that are still active. So you always want to be casting as much as possible in order not to kill yourself. So that's very important. And it actually goes faster when you're in Demonform because Demonform gives you a lot of extra cast speed. So the low life from the belt, the way that we're getting that is with a fairly expensive gem here. I'd farmed this for a long time, the Adziri's Communion. This allows me to essentially reserve this spirit skill for life instead of for spirit. And that allows me, you'll see on the bottom left here, to have about 30% life reserved, and reserved life counts towards the 25% that you need in order to reach the threshold. Low life is really good because it's on a baseline. Once you take this keystone over here, Pain Attunement to have 30% more critical damage bonus. This is huge. This is added to the 50% that I'm getting from the Ascendancy, so I'm 80% more as a baseline, which basically means that every point of increased critical damage bonus is that much more valuable, to the point that I'm getting like almost 1,000% more multiplier on my damage when I crit. So that's fucking massive. And also this is extremely massive. 20% cast speed on like a few points is amazing. The other things that are a little unusual on the tree, I take as much things that say increase mana cost of skills as possible, because again, you want to trigger your recube stacks as fast as possible and have the lowest mana possible. So the way that you do that is by having your things cost as much as possible. So plus levels, anything that makes your cost higher without removing damage is great. I will say this build is not finished. I still have some upgrades that I can make to it. It's not a cheap build, but it's also definitely not finished. So I might post a build when this is actually finished, or a video when this is actually finished, but it's in a very good state right now, even without being finished. The only weapon swap points that you see here are, I put some of the damage nodes on weapon set 2, which is where my good wand is, and I just have some exposure here for my like curses and frostbomb. That's pretty much it. There isn't anything like too advanced going on there. As far as the gear, I do have many triple crit jewels that I crafted. So these are triple crit mods and also 5 total mod jewels. Some of these aren't perfect, but you know, once you're 50 div deep into crafting a single jewel, you know, I have settled on a few of these. I could get some higher rolls if I kind of start trying to fix them again. This is probably the worst jewel on the build. I will replace this pretty soon. I just want to make like one more like big upgrade, and then I'm going to start like recrafting some of these jewels. This Heart of the Well also allows you to increase your calling strike threshold, which is pretty important. So that's pretty much it. There isn't much to say. Just everything is recube, crit, and just the necessary things like this keystone and the Pain Attunement keystone, etc. So that is about it for the gear and stuff. Just going to close this with a quick boss showcase. I hope everybody enjoyed that, and if you do decide to play this build, you know, or if you just like this video in general, shoot me a like. Thank you. Bye.
Every time I close my eyes, I see your ghost at night.